Some children grow up being yelled at. Some grow up being controlled. But there's another kind of childhood that people almost never talk about. The child who was simply not noticed, not the favorite, not the troublemaker, not the one anyone worried about. Just quiet, just easy, just there. And if you were that child, you probably learned something very early in life, that your feelings were less important. Your problems were smaller. Your voice didn't need to be heard. So you stopped asking for attention. You became invisible, and the strange part is, many invisible children grow up to become the adults who feel like they don't matter, even when they do. Imagine a typical evening in a busy house. The older sibling is arguing loudly with a parent. Doors slam. Voices rise. The younger sibling is crying about homework. Someone spills something in the kitchen. Everyone is reacting. Everyone is demanding attention, except one child. They're sitting quietly in the corner of the room, maybe drawing, maybe scrolling on a phone, maybe just watching. They notice everything. The tension, the frustration, the exhaustion in their parents' faces. And somewhere in their mind, a quiet calculation happens. Everyone is already overwhelmed. So I shouldn't add to it. So they don't speak up when they feel sad. They don't complain when something hurts. They don't ask for help when they're confused, because being low maintenance feels safer. And slowly, without anyone realizing it, they disappear. Not physically, emotionally. Pause for a moment. Think about your childhood. Were you the child who handled things alone? The one teachers described as mature for your age? The one adults praised for being so easy? At first, that sounds like a compliment, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's a quiet sign that a child learned their needs were inconvenient. Here's the thing most people misunderstand. Invisible children aren't always ignored in obvious ways. Their parents might not be cruel. They might not even be neglectful on purpose. Sometimes the family is just chaotic. One parent is overwhelmed. Another is emotionally distant. A sibling needs constant attention. And the quiet child? They adapt. They become the emotional background of the family. They listen more than they speak, observe more than they express, understand others better than anyone understands them. But this survival strategy has a hidden cost, because when a child learns to make themselves small, they often grow into adults who struggle to feel seen. You might notice it in subtle ways. You hesitate before sharing your opinions. You feel uncomfortable when too much attention is on you. You listen carefully to everyone else's problems, but rarely talk about your own. And sometimes, when someone finally asks how you're doing, you don't even know what to say. Not because nothing is wrong, but because you're used to carrying things alone. Here's another strange pattern. Invisible children often become incredibly perceptive adults. They can read a room instantly. They notice tone shifts, facial expressions, unspoken tension. They're the friend who knows something is wrong before anyone says it. They're the coworker who senses conflict before it explodes. Because growing up, their brain learned one important skill: pay attention to everything, except yourself. Think about that for a moment. You might understand other people's emotions deeply, but when it comes to your own feelings, they feel blurry, distant, like something you're still trying to translate. There's another pattern many invisible children carry into adulthood. They become the easy person in relationships, the one who says, "It's fine," the one who doesn't want to cause problems, the one who adjusts, compromises, and adapts. At first, people appreciate this. You seem calm, understanding, low drama, but over time, something painful happens. You start feeling unseen again, not because people don't care, but because you've become so good at hiding your needs that others don't know they exist, and the old childhood story quietly repeats itself. Here's the twist most invisible children don't realize until much later. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was intelligence. As a child, you were reading the emotional environment around you. You understood when people were overwhelmed. You sensed when attention was scarce. So your brain did the smartest thing it could do. It protected you by teaching you how to disappear. But survival strategies that work in childhood don't always serve us in adulthood, because now, the very skill that once protected you can also keep you from being truly known. Pause again for a moment. Ask yourself something honestly. When was the last time you allowed someone to fully see your struggles? Not the filtered version. Not the "I'm fine" version. The real one. For many invisible children, that question feels uncomfortable, even dangerous. Because somewhere deep inside, there's still that old belief: if I ask for too much, I'll become a burden. But here's something important. You were never meant to be invisible. No child is. Every child deserves to feel noticed, to feel understood, to feel like their inner world matters. And if you didn't get that growing up, it makes sense that part of you still wonders whether you deserve it now, to share your thoughts, to express your needs, to take up space in conversations, relationships, and rooms where you once shrank. And at first, it might feel strange, unnatural, even uncomfortable, because for years, your identity was built around being the easy one, the quiet one, the invisible one. But slowly, something changes. You start speaking a little more honestly. You start letting people know when something hurts. You stop pretending everything is fine when it isn't. And something surprising happens. The right people don't disappear. They lean closer. They listen. They understand. Because being seen was never the threat your childhood taught you it was. If you were the invisible child growing up, there's a good chance you became someone thoughtful, empathetic, observant, deeply aware of others. Those qualities are not weaknesses, they are rare. But they become truly powerful only when they're balanced with one simple truth: your inner world deserves attention too, not just everyone else's. So if part of you still feels invisible sometimes, remember this. The child who learned to disappear was only trying to survive. But the adult you are now doesn't have to keep hiding. You are allowed to be noticed. You are allowed to be heard. And most importantly, you are allowed to take up space in your own life.